Kia ora koutou katoa. The rite of baptism. Today we welcome a young lad, Michael Wes O'Reilly, and his parents, Chelsea and Lance. Michael's come to be baptized. Well, this rite of baptism has a long and convoluted and evolving history, which is to say what we do today and what we say and what we mean and what we do and say is different from the baptismal practices of Judaism of old, of the John the Baptizer movement, of the early Jesus movement, or for that matter, what has been practiced and preached in many places since. Religious language can be beautiful and point to transcendent mystery and wonder, but it can also obscure the beauty, mystery and wonder of what is right before our eyes, which is this child. So what I'm about to say of Michael Wes O'Reilly, who has graced this earth now for nearly 12 months, is equally true of every person here, and indeed of every person everywhere, regardless of creed, culture, lineage, or moral aptitude. For baptism is not a reward for coming to church or for having great parents, nor is it a badge of acceptability or a ticket to heaven. Rather, baptism is a pointer to four great truths. Firstly, Michael, you are magnificent. You are unique, you are special. You are no accident of circumstance, whether your parents planned you or not. You are no product of a mechanized assembly line. You are not another brick in the wall. In the cells of your body and in the pathways of your mind are mysteries that science is still stumbling on and being amazed by. There will never be another you. Your fingerprints, your soul prints are unique. You are one of a kind. This is what is fundamental, irreducible, paramount. This is your pole star. You are magnificent. This may be difficult to comprehend as you age and move from home to kindergarten to school and beyond. There are many in our world wanting to reduce your magnificence to fit with their desire for uniformity and control. There are many who don't want to acknowledge and celebrate your uniqueness, but push you into and limit you with their prejudices. The Caesars and their money men will demand their taxes, and you will need to learn how to meet those demands while staying true to yourself, not allowing them to diminish you and what you know to be true. For usually the Caesars and their sycophants want more than your money. They want your allegiance, your very soul. So you'll need to learn how to navigate these passages and these people. And hopefully you will have wise guides who will help you over the worst, guarding your heart, encouraging you into your best. The second great truth of baptism is that you're loved. You're loved by your parents and family. They are like a stream of love flowing through your life, bringing nurture and sustenance. You'll also be loved by friends and many others. They too can be like brooks, tumbling and giggling and quenching your thirst. But there is something else too about love. kind of mysterious, really. When terrible things happen, when trauma, grief, and loss arrive unbidden, which they will at some point, hopefully later rather than sooner, and you will seek to steady your wobbly, shaken world. When love is lost or broken or betrayed, the worst of which I hope will never visit you. When these things happen and the streams of love which you've known seem to have dried up or be out of reach, then sometimes if you're very still and can listen, you might hear the trickle of movement, the trickle and movement of water beneath you. For love really actually is all around. It's like an unseen energy, an underground, through-ground stream. It's there in animals, in flowers, in trees, in grass, in food shared, in beauty bathing our wearied hearts, in kindnesses offered to warm those hearts. It's not restricted to people or feelings. Some of us think the best name for this understanding of love is God. And it is there, free, unconditionally offered, no taxes attached, a grace, never needing to be earned or paid for, amazing, flowing, even when we can't see it. The third great truth of baptism is that you're not alone, even when you feel alone or terribly alone. Not only are you magnificent, unique and loved, you're also connected with other humans through community. And the stronger the community, the healthier are the individuals who are its parts. This church rite of baptism declares and celebrates our connection with each other. You are welcomed into a community whose principal organizational metaphor is that of a single body. So I might be a fingernail, with the purpose and functionality of a fingernail, but I'm also dependent on the finger and attached to a hand, and the whole flow of lifeblood, nerves, and whatever that makes a body, which means, although we are magnificent and unique and loved, we need each other. And in our participation with each other, we find our purpose. Community is something of a given. There are strong communities, weak communities, fragmented communities, fractured communities. It's possible, though, today in our society to live with minimal connection to any community. It's possible to live disconnected, sometimes by choice, oftentimes not. I would encourage you, Michael, throughout your life to seek for and choose community, to make and be part of networks beyond just your family or close friends. Be part of making good things happen for the environment and for others, especially those less fortunate than yourself. For we now know that in doing so, not only are others blessed, but our own well-being is enhanced. Fourthly and lastly, a great truth of baptism is that your life has a purpose. In the past we might have used the word call or vocation. You might have to spend a long time finding this purpose. Sometimes this purpose finds you. Sometimes it is the intersection of three things: your natural, learned abilities and leanings, the suffering of the world, and happenstance. Other times it can be quite simple. Smiling can be a vocation, for smiles help healing. Growing flowers can be a vocation, for beauty too can heal. I read last week again the story of Vedran Smelovic. He was a cellist, a member of the Sarajevo Opera Orchestra, when in the 1990s the travesty of war broke upon his land. He witnessed from his upstairs lodgings a mortar shell strike a bread line, killing 22 people. He wasn't one to take up arms. He hadn't the body of a warrior or the heart of one. He wasn't a politician or peacekeeper or a medic. He was a cellist. What can a cellist do? He dressed in his formal evening attire, as members of opera orchestras do, and then went and took a chair and sat in the rubble of that bakery and played his cello for 22 days, braving sniper and artillery fire to play Albinoni's profoundly moving Adagio in G minor. Did this trauma of war, the deaths of 22 people, drive him to this crazy response? Was he unhinged? It was so futile. How can music stop bullets? What madness to go out alone in the streets and address the world with a wooden box and a hair-strung bow. Yet isn't this what music at its best can do? Like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, Vedran Smelovic, speaking softly with his cello one note at a time, was calling out the rats that infest the human spirit. This is a true story. Neither bread line nor the mortar shell nor the music is fiction. For like a real-life fairy tale, sometimes history knocks at the most ordinary door to see if anyone is at home. Sometimes someone answers. Most everyone today in Sarajevo knows now what a cellist can do. For the place where Vedran played has become an informal shrine, place of honor. Croats, Serbs, Muslims, Christians alike, they all know his name and face. They place flowers where he played, commemorating the hope that must never die, that someday, somehow, the best of humanity shall overcome the worst of humanity. Not through unexpected miracles, but through the expected acts of the many. Sarajevo is not the only place where Vedran Smelovic is known. Musicians around the world heard about him. They took their instruments and went out on the streets and played for 22 hours, 22 days, in acts of solidarity, in the hope of peace, in the task of calling out the rats that infest the human spirit. My point is that he was a musician, a cellist, but he found his vocation when confronted with profound suffering. He took what he knew, his music, and offered it as an affront to war. He offered it to our souls. He offered the simplicity and weakness of beauty and hope in the face of a ravenous and raging violence. Robert Fulgham, in his retelling of Smelovic's story, concludes saying, "Never ever regret or apologize for believing that when one person decides to risk addressing the world with truth, the world may stop doing what it's doing and hear." There's too much evidence to the contrary. When we cease believing this, the music will surely stop. The myth of the impossible dream is more powerful than all the facts of history. Today we need that belief more than ever.